Hello, welcome to the land of Kakiak. My name is Laurel. Today I am fulfilling a request for more how-to videos for the everything notebook pages for my middle schooler. So today I am going to show you his grammar exercises and his vocabulary. So I'm going to show you his middle school notebook. Let's start with grammar. So it's just a writing page. I say book title, pages worked, and then whatever exercises he does here. And then on this day, I wrote in play grammar Jenga. Okay, so I did go through this book. I hope you can't hear my husband sanding the walls in the next room. I hope it's not picking up. If it is, and you're wondering what is that sound, we are giving the dining room a little makeover, and we had some wall repair, so he's sanding down all that like wall putty he's had to put in for me. Okay, anyways, so what I did, I decided I was doing the approach where I was like looking at his writing pieces, and then if I noticed any specific grammar that he needed to work on, I was finding it in here and assigning it. But I went ahead and decided to just have him go through this whole book. It's Usborne Illustrated Grammar and Punctuation. I believe the ages on it were like 9 to 12, and he's 12. But it really, I mean, grammar is grammar. It doesn't really matter how old you are. If you need it, you need it. So I just went through and assigned about 2 pages of reading a day. And there's like quizzes built into here, right? So he can just work through it. And then when there's a day where there's a quiz, the answers are all, wait, let me find it. Here's a quiz or a test, right? There's quizzes and tests. Test yourself. Right, I just called it a quiz. They can do that, and then all the answers are in the back, so he can either check it himself, here's the answers, or I can like read the answers to him when he's done. Either way, it's pretty fast. And I just figured it's good to just keep up with the grammar practice for now, so he doesn't lose it, you know? Okay, so we're liking this book. I started out with the Harvey's grammar, and it just goes into so much like it just, there were some good exercises in there, but I was finding myself wanting to like pick and choose from them, which was kind of making me take more time than I wanted to devote to planning, because some of the ones I would want to cut out were the ones that I just felt were a little like I don't really care if he diagrams sentences, you know? Yeah, not at this point anyways, or I don't know, there were just certain things that I felt like the instructions were kind of hard to understand. So this one was much easier to read and understand. He's never had a question about what they want him to do in here. And of course, it's always kind of more fun to read something really colorful. And it's already written in a form, like kind of like notes, like note taking. So there are days in here that he's just reading. So like this was just a reading day. So when there's if there's the day, I'm going through here, page 94, 95, let's look at them. Okay, so we're gonna be reading about parentheses and dashes. So there was really there wasn't really any exercises in here to do. So I would just have him read, and when he reads, he can just take notes on stuff if he needs to, if he finds that helpful to him. I'm not making this like a super strict subject or anything. I just want it to be in his head so that when he goes to write something and I correct him, he'll be like, oh, it might ring a bell. You know what I mean? It won't be like shocking new information. So yeah, he's just reading it, and he can take notes as he goes, and then he can do the quizzes when he gets to pages that are quizzes. But for pages where there wasn't any quiz on it, I have 2 games, which I actually bought for my 3rd grader. But like I said, grammar is grammar. And this is kind of something that can help them both. These are printable games. I printed them and bound them together. And I did have to buy a colorful Jenga set, which was pretty cheap. I will link to all this in the description box, as well as the video. I did a prep and chat video, I think, where I was prepping this. And so if you want to see that in more detail. But there's a roll and solve game. And then there is the grammar review Jenga cards, right? So here's a picture of the colorful Jenga. But there are these cards that we printed out, and I just stuck them in here I taped in an envelope to keep them in, and I color coded the back of them so we could like put them in piles. Yeah, so they roll, they pull a grammar card, and that tells them, the color that they roll tells them what card to pull. And let's see, this was on sentences. Identify whether the sentence is a simple, complex, or compound sentence. Before we took a seat, we greeted the man. Right? And then all the answer keys are in here. So this is one of the ones, and then they know what color of piece to pull out of their Jenga. And they basically just keep playing until one of the tower falls down. And if they get it right, they get to keep the card. If they get it wrong, they got to put it back in, right? So just whoever has the most cards at the end is the winner. That's how I have them play it. So it's, it's more like it's more review for him, but a lot of it's new information for my third grader that it's mutually beneficial, right? Anyway, so like I said, if you want to see more on those, I'll link them in the description box for you. But yeah, so I wrote play grammar Jenga, and then I'd alternate grammar Jenga and roll and solve. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward, right? Let me see. Let's see if I have some example work for you. Nope, see, this is easy enough, right? This day, I just written in work pages 14 and 15. They're reading them. He didn't take any notes, apparently he didn't want to, but he did play roll and solve. All right, I should have checked that off. So that's what we're doing for grammar right now. Pretty simple. Plus, he gets feedback from me on his grammar when he's writing. When we do writing and rhetoric pieces, when I look at his stuff. Okay, the other thing is vocabulary. So this is page here, right? They're just right next to each other. We have been doing Worldly Wise. He's actually on, is it book 7 or level 7? So I'll show you what he has been doing. And then I'll just tell you about what he's going to be doing. We're just coming back. This is Sunday. Tomorrow's Monday, after Thanksgiving. And I wanted to try something different for his vocabulary. So I'll just show you what we have been doing really quick. So we've been using this, and he was on page 110. I've just been having him do the exercises that are in here, just writing his answers in here. And he just does one exercise a day, right? He's got his words listed there for him. So if you're not familiar with Wordly Wise, so they all are kind of formatted the same way. You've got your word list, which you're supposed to read through, or it just says study. And then they just have follow-up exercises, right? Choose 2 phrases to form a sentence that correctly uses a word from the word list. So you got to match up 2 of these phrases and make your sentence. And then just the right word. Improve each of the following sentences by crossing out the bold phrase and replacing it with a word from your word list, right? So this is basically the meaning of the word. You're going to put in the actual vocabulary word that means that, right? Okay, applying meaning, circle the letters or letters of each correct answer. It came with an answer key for the lessons. So he usually has been just doing these and checking his own work. I keep this in my desk drawer so he can't just have it over there and copy it in his book. He's got to show me that he has it done before I give him this. And then when he takes his tests, it comes with a test booklet. I ripped mine apart, but we just give him whatever test he wants, right? He takes it back to his spot and he writes it again. He just takes the test on his page. And this way I don't ever have to rebuy these test booklets or anything. And then I just will it has the answer keys in it too. So then I'll read the answers out to him when he's done. So that's how we've been doing Wordly Wise in here. But I'll show you what I want to do. I wanted to try something different with him, and I'll show you. So it started with this. You guys are probably familiar with Don Potter, Alpha Phonics, right, guy? And he's got Blend Phonics also. And this is called Beyond Blend Phonics. This is what do you do after that? It's really more for reading, right? Which I think of vocabulary, but it's reading, writing, right? 2 sides of the same coin. But it's the next step after they know their phonics, right? All their phonograms and phonemes, then they can sound out words, right? But because of the way English came to be formed, there's more to our language than just sounding things out, right? And this will help them with their spelling too. So I read this in the night, went back and revised levels 3, 4, 5, and 6 of my McGuffey spelling too. Just to start training a little bit more towards morphology. Yeah, I'm sure I'll do videos on that soon as well. But right now let's talk about Beyond Blend Phonics. So in here he has, I feel what a lot of times you're I would like to do vocabulary and you're like, I'm willing just to do something more on our own, but you don't know what words to use, right? Am I right or am I right? So this one, I like this book. It's really affordable. I'll link it for you below. I mean, it was definitely, I think, $10 or less. He's going to go over Anglo-Saxon prefixes, Anglo-Saxon suffixes, Romance prefixes, Romance suffixes, Romance roots, Greek combining forms, homonyms, and this stuff is just like FYI for your information kind of stuff. But I'll show you something like why should you care about beyond Blend Phonics. These numbers are why. And he I watched a video. I don't know if I can find it. I'll link it. But he goes over. So the first 1,000 most common words that we use in English are of an 83% English origin, 11% French, 2% Latin, 2% Danish, and 2% other. So, okay, these are mostly going to follow our spelling rules and stuff like that, right? We probably know all these words. So if you bump it up to the 2,000 most common English words, all those words together, it's now 34% are of English origin, 46% are from French, 11% from Latin, 2% Danish, and 7% other. Of the most common 3,000 most common English words we use, only 29% are of English origin. So you can start seeing in this number, look how many French words, right? Or a French origin. So you can start seeing why this is important to learn, to teach your kids morphology. It gives you a window into our history of people. I will link to a video in the description box about like the origins of English. It's something that I have had my kids watch it. You know, like it drives me nuts. You know, I see funny little like reels or whatever. Sometimes people are like, okay, so you know, like these different letters make different sounds and different words and all this. No, it's just so crazy. English just doesn't make sense. And it kind of makes kids, if they don't know that there's a reason, it's because our language is actually very complex and it's like a snowball of languages and cultures that have kind of snowballed together. And it's still that snowball's still rolling. You know, stuff is still being added to the dictionary every year. So if they don't understand that and that there's nothing wrong with it, there's nothing wrong with our language, you know, we've just blended. So therefore we get also their spellings for stuff. So it's actually important to know that it's not English is only part of the language that we call English, right? There's also French, Latin, Norse, Danish. There's all types of stuff in there, right? So back to the book. All right, so I like he breaks it out for us. So it starts out with Anglo-Saxon prefixes, right? Anglo-Saxon English from the days of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. You can tell I've been in here making notes. I was like reading it, and most of them he gives the meaning of, but some of them he didn't at the very beginning. So I just was like making notes to myself of what they meant. But you may want to go over with your kids if you're going to use something like this. You know, what is, an affix is a letter or group of letters that you affix, right, onto either the front or the end of a word to modify its meaning, right? Prefixes go in front of the word, suffixes go at the end of a word. A lot of them they'll already be familiar with, like ed, to make something past tense, or ing. And if you haven't taught them that stuff now's the time. You can do it right with their vocabulary words. So I like to have a little routine. Why don't you help me while I kind of like plan it out. Okay, book title, Beyond Blend Phonics, 1127. All right, so the page is worked, I'm not sure. Let's take a look. So Anglo-Saxon prefixes. So I'm gonna have him watch that video. I know he's watched it before about the origins of English. So I'll make a little star, okay. Maybe it's called The History of English, something like that. Just make a little note, we wanna watch that. And then we're gonna be chapter 1, Anglo-Saxon prefixes. So if he didn't know what prefixes was, like I said, I would probably have him write down the definition of prefix. Okay, and then we've got our words forget, forbid, forgive, foreclose, and forsake. And so I like that it does give us the spelling, it does give us the syllables broken out, and he does give us the accent mark. So we can see which syllable is accented. I will never forget you. I will remember you forever. So what he gives you in here is what he calls parallel sentences. And this is something that I think you could do with spelling words, with like anything you do. What you do is you write a sentence that uses the word, like forget, I will never forget you. And then the next sentence gives the meaning of that word, right? I will remember you forever. But it's like a parallel sentence. So you could say, forget was the vocabulary word, and the remember, will remember, I will never forget you. I will remember you forever. But you can understand the meaning of the vocabulary word from the second sentence, if that makes sense. And these are the ones he wrote. I forbid you to eat chocolate in class. I will not let. See, even this one he put, forbid means not let. He put it in italics. I forgive you for eating my chocolate. I will not be upset with you for eating my chocolate since you said you were sorry and promised never to do it again. But, not be upset is the meaning of forgive, right? Or close enough to it for these sentences. He doesn't give you the direct definition. He just is giving you parallel sentences. That gives us room for work to do. All right, so I think it's important to know what Anglo-Saxon means and prefixes mean. That video I'm sharing with you below will help answer that question for them. Otherwise, just the fact that there's words there that they don't know what they mean is confusing and may put a seed of like, I can't trust this information, I don't understand it, I'm not going to be able to get it. When like right away they don't understand what these words mean. So make sure they understand what these words mean. Let's start with just the first one. Forget. It's forget. So and it gives us the prefix is the prefix for. Instead of just using a regular dictionary for the word forget, I'm going to use my dictionary of etymology, the origins of American English words. Let's look up forget. And there are other places to look. I'll also link in the description box to my favorite online etymology dictionary. And I also have an etymology app on my phone. Whatever you feel comfortable with your kids using. I just know that I bought this book. I have the 8,000 dictionary word origins for 8,000 of our most common words. But sometimes I go look up words and I couldn't find them. So I wanted to get a more comprehensive etymology dictionary. So I went ahead and bought this one. I'll link it for you too. But I know that sometimes I don't want to let my kid have my phone, or I don't to use my app, or I don't want him to be on the computer for whatever reasons we may have, right? You just prefer them to have a book. So this is a book. But I do like those other options as well. They give good information. There it is. It says, it's a verb. Before 1250, forgetten developed from Old English about 725. And it's giving the history here. It's from I'm probably not going to say it, probably pronounced the same way, getten. For, meaning away, amiss, or opposite, plus, what if this said geeten or geiten? Or geeten. Get, meaning get, as in begetten, or beget, as we still have that word today. Corresponding to Old Frisian forgetta, which means forget, and the Old Saxon fargetten, Dutch vergetten, and Old High German vergessen, or Modern German vergessen. I'm probably saying those all wrong, but the Old English form was respelled under the influence of Middle English. Middle English, I believe that's around Shakespearean, English. To getten, G-E-T-E-N, to get or acquire. And then the forgetful is an adjective. We get that about 1384. It looks the same, forgetful. Formed from forget plus full. Okay. So these are really fun. What they're showing them is the parts that have gone into it, and that English has gone, through multiple versions of itself, right? Old English, Middle English, Modern English. I personally think these are fun things to explore and find a video to show them, especially if they're curious about it. What is Middle English? It's super fun. I'll try to find some and link them in the description box. They have people have made videos where they are speaking or trying to speak Old English. You cannot understand it. I was listening to, Everett's also reading Our Island Story, the story of the British Isles. And I've been listening to the audiobook recently. It's just nice to listen to. I was folding laundry yesterday last night, and my third grader poor little guy, he had a little headache. So he was laying on my bed with my ice mask on, and I was folding laundry, and I turned on for him to listen to Our Island Story. I'll link that in the description box for you too, because it was actually a good audio book, a good version to listen to. And they were talking about, the author, she was talking about the original Britons, right? So they were pretty much taken over by the Danes, and then like the Saxons, that, they were invaded by the Danish, and the Saxons really took over. And a lot of them were, and this is before the Normans came and stuff, right? But the original Britons kind of receded into the, area of Wales, and that's where the descendants of the original Britons still are to this day, and that the Welsh language is much more close to what the original language that was spoken there would have been. And have you ever seen any of those? I know it's like a joke, but any of the, I think the town that has the longest name in the world or something is in Wales. It's a ridiculously long amount of letters and stuff. I always think of Welsh, whenever I think of Wales, I just think of the name, all the GW names, like Gwendolyn and Gwyneth and Guinevere. I always think of those as being Welsh. So it's not something that you hear very often, right? Only in really names. Anyways, I think I went off on a rabbit trail. I'll try to link some fun videos. It's kind of fun to let kids listen to people speaking ancient languages and Old English and Middle English and the different accents. I heard listened to another video recently that said something that happened in the Americas. We had to be different, and we had to change some spellings, right? I wonder if it was at the same time that we changed the way that we laid our tables. Remember, we switched around our forks and spoons or whatever, and it just seems like a funny thing to do. Anyways, but that they said that there was something called accent freeze when people immigrated here. So I know that America has a bunch of accents today, but kind of the West Coast, the accent I'm speaking in now is much closer to the original accent, or the original way the English language sounded when it came to the Americas. It kind of froze, and there was a line of it that was retained. Then what British people sound like today is actually farther off. So I probably sound more like Shakespeare than Harry Potter. I don't know if that's true, but that's what this video was saying. So I just thought it was interesting to think about, right? It's just interesting stuff to talk to your kids about and get them interested in what you're doing. Okay, back to forget. You could just get a simple definition, something like to not remember, right? To forget. Oh, and forget, that is a verb. I always like to have them note the part of speech of a word. So a simple definition, to not remember. And then let's look at the etymology again. It'll probably feel a little cumbersome for them to read it first, but do it with them a few times and make sure they understand it. And then kind of training wheels, and then take them off and let them go. Okay, so we have, and they've given us for and get, we see the syllables for and get. So we know that there is a prefix. So come up with some kind of system, right? So prefix for, maybe you square prefixes or something, or you circle them. And get is actually a root word. Maybe I'll do root words in black. You could use highlighters too. For, get, right? Okay, and then you could say for means away, amiss, opposite. Plus, the next part of the word is get. Get, which means, I think, acquire, right? What did it say? It told me, plural. Yeah, acquire is the word they used. What does that equal? It equals forget, which means away, amiss, opposite of, or acquire. So it could mean if you acquire, it's got away, right? Or The opposite of acquire would be to not have. So I like to have them try to figure out between these some kind of literal meaning that matches up here. So I would say it's meaning like the opposite, like to, I would say not have, or got away, gotten, right? That memory. Does that make sense with to not remember? You do not acquire, you do not possess the memory. You forgot. And then you can have them say, you can use those parallel sentences. I will never forget you. He said, I will remember you forever. You. So I would just make a note that like, it's never forget in this meaning. So it's gonna be will remember. It's kind of the opposite, but this is negating the meaning. So they could write another one themselves. You might have them, that's a sample, and have them write their own parallel sentences next. So, don't let me forget my purse. If I don't remember it, I'll be in trouble, right? And then it's don't remember, right? That matches it better with forget. Okay. Then I still have, look, I have room for one more. You could also go farther with these. You could have them do trees. So they said, they kind of laid it out. You can do family trees. So before 1250, it was forgetting. So it went from forgetting, which is Old English, which was respelled under the influence of Middle English, getting, to get, acquire. So that's the Old English. To today we have forget. Okay, today we've dropped the en, and before that it looks like it was influenced by, and these don't have to be perfect, forgotten or forgetting, which the Old French was forgetta. Okay, this is Old French. So we got this from the French, I'm sure through the Norman conquest. It became forgotten, to forgot. And Old Saxon, forgotten. Old Saxon, forgotten, right? Both of those kind of became that. Dutch, vergeten, and Old High German. There's Old German, Old Dutch. There was a bunch of stuff that all kind of was at this level and then went to here, to here, to here. But if they're interested in kind of following those family trees, they can. There is, I know my app on my phone, there's a part of kind of, it lays it out better than what I'm doing, but they've got to start learning how to kind of make their own mind maps and, train of thoughts and stuff. Like, you can't always, you want them to be doing more thinking for themselves, So I was thinking about just having him do one word a day, because by the end of the week, he's done, 5-6 words, and each time he'll be looking up for. The prefix for means away, opposite, or completely. I noticed here they spelled it Fore, right? And then I think it's nice to have them, let them be artistic or something. And he was letting the kids, somebody had, it was like a dip pen, but he had given them a ballpoint nib for the dip pen. I think I don't know if he was going for it because it feels different or if it's just novelty and it's fun. But I did buy my kids dip pens. I'll show them to you. Okay, so here's one I got. I bought 3 different ones. I bought one that was a little bit bigger that had multiple nibs. This one is smaller because it was for my my middle son, he has a smaller hand. And I bought one that was a quill, but it had just a ballpoint. This part was just a ballpoint pen. And he feels ripped off. He didn't get a real dip pen. So he's just been using his brother's a lot. But this is fun. I did buy some washable ink. I wasn't sure if the ink that came with it didn't say washable, but this is washable on the website. But the bottle itself doesn't say washable. I just wanted to make sure I could wipe it up or wash it out of clothes or something. But this has been fun to let them, they could try it. I wonder if I can do it right here without making too big of a mess. Feels nice, actually. Anyways, if you want something novel, they've been like coming down every morning and getting into their quills, and especially my younger two. Those are fun. I'll link these for you too. Just if you want something kind of fun to do at school. They've been using them. They love them so much they've just been wanting to write with them and draw with them. Okay, forget. I don't know. So if you wanted somebody to draw pictures of like somebody, I don't know, forgetting. Right? I don't know. I can't remember. I forget. So again, what does for mean? Away, amiss, opposite. Away, amiss, or opposite. And I don't forget, like that's a word that they already know, but some of these words they probably won't know. It kind of depends on how old they are, right? And what you've been having them read. But it will teach them, I'm looking at this as kind of like training wheel words to learn how to use their etymology dictionary and kind of learn just how to study words on their own. Like what information can I find out about this word, right? And if they have questions about spelling, right, you can do derivations of it too. You can say, if there's a word like forget, so verbs are really easy to say, have an inflectional ending, right? Like S, ED, ING, stuff like that. So then you could have them say like, okay, how many like forms of forget are there? This is where a regular dictionary is good, because if you look at forget, you'll see all the derivatives of it, right? So you could have them practice. So there's forget, and then there's forgetting, right? Double the T. If you need to look up why do we double the T before we add the ing, like that's one of our spelling rules. I'll put a link to my spelling rule flashcards for you too. Forget, forgetting, forgets, and then you might see other words. You might look up related words like forgot, forgetful, which we'll talk about later, right? So you may want to look up related words, and all of this for is like the opposite of getting. You don't get it. You don't have it. Opposite. So if they have like want to make word pictures or something that helps them to nail down the meaning of the word, like yes, it's the meaning of maybe of the world overall, but especially of whatever we're looking at prefixes right now. You want to make sure that they're really learning what that prefix is, because if they see another word like forbearance, right? Is that forbearance? Is that a prefix, right? You want them to be able to start looking at it. And remind them, not all words have prefixes and suffixes. There are root words, right, too, that just are words that could just stand alone on their own, right? Usually are English words, right? This book walks through a whole bunch of stuff, and they'll learn a lot about our language as they go, which I just think it's worth knowing. And I just don't feel like he's getting that from Wordly Wise right now. And I want him to not be dependent on necessarily a curriculum to figure out what words mean and to get, because I just don't feel like they give a full accounting. I feel like you have to go to an etymology dictionary to start getting a better understanding of our language, which is what my goal is right now for vocabulary for him, is just a better understanding of our language, like at its building blocks, at its core, so that when he encounters new words that he's never seen before, that he can make informed guess. And remember learning about educated guesses. And I also just encourage my kids, I swear they never do, but when I used to read, I had a dictionary on my nightstand, and maybe I was just a nerd. Now that I think about it, I was probably just a nerd. But if you're watching this video, there's a high probability that you're a nerd too, so you know what I'm talking about. And I had a dictionary on my bedstand so I could look up any word I didn't know at any time. And I did. I looked up a whole lot of words. Anyways, so if he did this, if he gave me a page like this, I would be happy for vocabulary. So that's what I'm doing right now. So his main things are words from here. And there are some, he does start giving you the meanings of things in here, just so you know. There's an introduction to Latin roots he gives you. But it doesn't do a lot of teaching. It's mostly just the sentences, the parallel sentences. Greek combining forms from the days of the Greek philosophers Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Words like telephone, phoneme, phonics, phonetics, phonograph, phonogram, phonology, photocopy, photography, auto, So it's cool that they'll get to see, like, because, you know, kids are, why does PH say the F sound? Why isn't phone spelled F? Oh, because it's Greek. So this will help you get that into their head, and so it doesn't seem so foreign and so weird, and that they aren't so resistant to learning it. Anyways, I am totally encourage you, if you come across something in here that piques their interest, like, there's so much online, like, just find a video on it. Someone's probably done a little short video, and of course I always recommend previewing videos. You never know. Try to find a video that's like 10 minutes or less for them, to give them a little bit more understanding of something if they're interested, and keeps them engaged in what they're learning. And if you only did one word a day and he did this much work, I would be happy. As long as at the end of this he knows what for means. That's what I'm really looking for here, is for him to memorize this prefix for. Okay, well, I hope that gave you some ideas. I was looking for, you know, resources that my 7th grader can work in independently, and for the most part, and that aren't going to be too heavy. Like, I feel like that's about the right level that I want him working at. His brain's working enough, but not too much, because we've got like the heavy hitters like math and full-on writing, you know, and stuff like that I want most of his brain energy to go to. Okay, I'll talk to you soon.